book lovers, it is Gedsavanh here, and I'm here today with the twice a year tag. So this book tag was created by Beck at Beckle Books, and I will link her channel down in the description so you can check her out and you can watch her content because I seriously love her content. Last year, Beck tagged me in the first part of the tag. Essentially, the twice a year tag is a reading tracker tag that takes place in April and August. It is very much a great way to keep on top of your reading, whether you have goals or not, and to also kind of look at your TBR, see what's next. And I personally love doing it. I love evaluating how far I've come so far and looking at potentially how far I will go. Overall, I'm just excited to do this tag, so I'm doing it again this year. I guess without further ado, let's get straight into my answers for April, and we will see how I go in the lead up to the part 2, which will be coming out in August. Prompt number 1 is, how many books do you reckon you will get to this year? And look, I'm not gonna say a number beyond what I read last year. I'm just gonna say 300. And the reason why I think I'm on track to reading 300 books by the end of the year is because right now I'm sitting at around 90-ish books as I'm talking right now. Sometimes toward the end of the year I cram a lot, I read a lot of manga, and I reckon I could potentially read a lot more manga by the end of this year. So I'm gonna say 300. How many books did I read last year? I think I achieved 300, but I think it could have been 300 and something. I don't know if it was like 302 or 303. I'll just say 300 at the moment. I think maybe I could go to 350, but I am not going to be that ambitious. If I get to 300, I will be content. I know I don't sound like I'm a normal person, but I read a lot of manga and I consume a lot of books that happen to be like different page counts or in different formats. I like to spice things up and I need to constantly stimulate my brain. Also, I struggle with my sleep as well. So at moments where I could be sleeping, I'm reading instead. That's the thing. Prompt number 2 is, have you made a specific reading goal or target that you need to check in with / keep track of? I make a few TBR related videos at the very beginning of the year that I do need to kind of check in with. So far, I'm going pretty well with my 12 friends recommended me 12 books challenge. I feel like last year I really struggled with that challenge. I was less determined about it. I think I was just doing it because everyone else was doing it, and for some of it I just took to the internet to get everyone's opinion. This year I made a goal to ask a good amount of my work colleagues who I see every day so that they can kind of keep me accountable to it for recommendations, and that has kind of worked so far because I have had pretty good conversations about the recommendations I've received so far. I mean the ones that I've read, obviously, and I am making sure that I'm either reading one a month or I am not falling behind. At this point, I'm a third of the way through the challenge, so I reckon I could be on track to complete it. That all being said, I still find this TBR to be highly intimidating. It's probably the TBR I'm still least excited about. However, I guess I'm more inclined to complete it because I am surrounded by majority of the people in my everyday life. So in some way, I am keeping myself accountable to them. I have definitely not been keeping track of the 23 books I want to read in 2023. I'm pretty sure I've read a good majority of them, maybe a minority of them. But what I do know is that I made that specific video with the intention of including the titles that I knew I was gonna most likely get to. With the self-destructing TBR, however, I'd have to say that I'm doing okay with that one. I'm definitely in the early stages of it because, I mean, that video only came out in March anyway. That video got seriously held back. I filmed it like in January, but it only came out in March, so that's hilarious. As I'm filming this video, I'm currently reading one of my picks, and I have to say that I think I might just unhaul it anyway. Like, overall, I'm determined to finish it. I have around 20% of the book left. However, I'm just not really interested in reading the sequel. So I guess the challenge is helping me try new things out, but I don't know whether the one I'm reading is a success or a failure. I also have my 5-star predictions TBR, and I think the funniest part about that 5-star predictions video is that I think I might have read like 1 or 2 books on that TBR and they just weren't 5 stars. I can't say that I'm disappointed because I wasn't severely disappointed in the books that I read that I picked for that TBR. That all being said, I still kind of expected them to be 5-star picks, and this is why I struggle with 5-star predictions so much, because as much as I love the idea of creating 5-star predictions or predicting my favorites, at the end of the day, that can kind of disappoint you in the long run. But I'm doing okay with that TBR so far as well. I am keeping track of it. Whenever I look at those books, I remember that I've put them on that TBR, so when I'm in the mood to read a favorite, then I will go to that TBR. And the final TBR at the top of my head that I'm definitely keeping track of is my series TBR. I love making my series TBR every year, but for some reason, I have not really been paying attention to that TBR specifically. I think I've completed at least one of the series on that TBR. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that I was going to read the Unearthly series in that video, and I did. I completed it, but there are so many other series on that TBR that I'm yet to complete. However, I know that with the series TBR video, there are so many series on that list that I believe are going to give me a really bad book hangover, and I can't be afraid of the book hangover forever. Like, I have to commit and actually read book series that I know that I'm gonna love or somewhat enjoy. Question number 3 is, how many 5-star reads have you completed so far this year? And the answer to that question is so much better than the answer that I had to this question this time last year. I believe that I answered last year with 6 and only 3 of them not being rereads, but I am so happy to say that this year so far I have read 11 11 5-star reads, but only one of them being a reread, and that reread was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. And if you guys would like to know what my 5-star reads have been so far, first of all, I started this year off with a 5-star read, and that was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. One of my favorite books ever. Dracula reimagining, oh my goodness, so good. My next 5-star read was Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. I mean, that was kind of self-explanatory. Actually, I wasn't expecting that one to be a 5-star read. Like, I was unsure due to its length whether or not it would be a 5-star read, because it's half the size of Chosen Ones, and Chosen Ones is like one of my favorite books ever. So going into Poster Girl, I kind of expected it to just be okay, but it blew me away. So I loved Poster Girl, and yeah, I definitely gave it a 5 stars. I also gave Beach Read by Emily Henry a 5 out of 5 stars. That was actually one of the 12 books that one of my 12 friends recommended to me, and I'm so thankful that they recommended it to me, because oh my goodness, Beach Read was so good. And oh my gosh, Would You Rather by Alice and Ashley has got to be probably my favorite best friends to lover story ever. It was so magical, and I loved the way that it was told. I highly recommend this book. I believe it's severely underrated. More people need to pick it up. It's incredible. And then Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I actually expected Rachel Lynn Solomon's The X-Talk to be my favorite book by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I actually expected The X-Talk to be a 5 out of 5 stars. So I actually read Weather Girl in the lead up to The X-Talk, because even though Weather Girl was Rachel Lynn Solomon's latest release, I usually read things in publication order, but in this case I decided to read Weather Girl first so I wouldn't be disappointed after reading The X-Talk. But turns out Weather Girl happens to be one of the best romance novels I've ever read in my entire life. It has the best depression representation I've seen in a romance novel. It's beautiful. I highly recommend it. And to those who say that Weather Girl is just mid, I'm sorry. I don't trust your taste. No, sorry. I really love Weather Girl. And it was a 5 stars. Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake was so beautiful. Whenever I think about this book, it makes me so emotional. It definitely was worthy of 5 stars. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This was the perfect slice of life and romance novel. I'm not gonna lie, I don't love the epilogue as much, because I believe that the epilogue happened kind of quickly. I mean, like, quickly after the events of the book. However, if we take the epilogue out, the entire novel is a 5 out of 5 stars for me, and it sends very positive messages, and I really appreciate that. And then 2 of the 6 books in the Bonds That Tie series, them being Savage Bonds and Tragic Bonds. Savage Bonds is the 2nd book in the series, and Tragic Bonds is the 5th book in the series. As much as I love this trashy series, I can't give all the books a 5 out of 5 stars, because at times I felt like the plot didn't progress, or there was something I didn't agree with. Like in book 1, there was something that I did not agree with, and as much as I wanted to give the finale a 5 out of 5 stars, I believe that the finale should have been Tragic Bonds, or the ending parts of Unbroken Bonds should have been placed in Tragic Bonds. This series could have easily been a 5-book series, but that is okay. I enjoyed the ride, and books 2 and 5 left a massive impact on me. And the last 5 out of 5 star read I have completed so far is Garden of Serpents by C.N. Crawford. This is the final book in the Demon Queen Trials, and it was an epic finale in my personal opinion. As much as the Demon Queen Trials wasn't necessarily a fully 5 out of 5 star series series for me. Garden of Serpents was the perfect finale to the perfect hate to love romance paranormal series. And when I say that it's a perfect hate to love romance paranormal series, I would personally comp this romance to Jude and Carden's romance. But I mean, completely different circumstance. It's a little bit obviously romantic. Less cruel, but probably just the right amount of angst. So those are all my 5-star reads for the year so far. Last year, this question was a lot easier to answer. It's been a good reading year so far, as you can tell. Question number 4 is, what is a popular book that you own that you haven't yet read? I have a few for this one, as I always do. I mean, look at my TBR. It's ever growing, ever changing. First of all, I would like to mention Praise by Sarah Kate. This is the first book in the Salacious Players Club, and I've wanted to read this for quite some time. I know that this is popular. This is going around everywhere. I think I first heard about the series like 6 months ago, and ever since then, the internet has not shut up about this series. So I need to read it. I have been seeing it recommended to me almost every day here on the bookternet. And it is currently a priority to get to it before Babe because Sarah Kate is attending Babe from what I know so far. Honestly, people are cancelling left, right, and center for Babe, so I'm really hoping that Sarah Kate is not going to do that and that she's going to attend and I can get my book signed because I would be more inclined to put the effort in that way. The next popular book slash series that I own that I have not yet read is the Of Flesh and Bone series, the first book being What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Wood. So my cover looks different to the original cover, and that is because I actually purchased this special exclusive edition from Harper L. Wood's website. I believe that she still might have some in stock, but you can get this signed and you can get this personalized. I got mine personalized and oh my goodness, I love this edition so much. I prefer these covers over the originals, so I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna spend extra money and I'm going to purchase these directly from her store. And I'm so happy that I did, but I really do need to read the series. Considering that the third book has only recently come out, I know that I'm sleeping on it. I don't know how long the series is gonna go for. I reckon that it might be a 4-book series. I thought that this was gonna be a trilogy, but just so turns out the third book ends on a cliffhanger, so I thought that I wasn't making a huge commitment if I was to purchase like the first 2 books from the author. Turns out I am making a bigger commitment than I signed up for, but that is okay because I hear nothing but great things about What Lies Beyond the Veil. I just want to read it. It sounds like my thing. So I am very much looking forward to getting to it eventually, but I'm less inclined to get to it now, I think because I assumed that this was going to be a trilogy, but I think it's going to be at least a quartet or more. And the final popular book that I have to mention is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I received this in my monthly fairy loot September of last year, and this book is absolutely gorgeous. It's so pretty, and I just remember everyone talking about this when it first came out. Actually, I just remember everyone anticipating this release because everyone was very much looking forward to Adeline Grace's new work, or I mean, I don't know, maybe they heard the synopsis and they were like, whoa, I need to check that out, especially because I believe it's about a protagonist who gets with death or something. It kind of gives me Kingdom of the Wicked vibes. I also loved Adeline Grace's debut series, so I am looking forward to this one based on reading books from Adeline Grace before, but also I'm kind of nervous to get to Belladonna. I'm definitely nervous because everyone is hyping it up. I haven't seen one negative review about Belladonna from those who I'm closest to. I'm definitely getting Kingdom of the Wicked vibes from this. I feel like ever since Kingdom of the Wicked finally finished, everyone has kind of moved on to Belladonna. I'm not saying that everyone moved on because yes, there is a spin-off to Kingdom of the Wicked that will be coming out. However, this seems to be somewhat of a comp to it. I can't wait to get to Belladonna, but I am a little bit intimidated, and I think it's because there's a lot of hype surrounding this title. Question number 5. Do you want to reread anything within the next few months? Yes, I do. First of all, this is not necessarily a priority because I'm not rereading this in the lead up to anything. However, I do want to reread this series in general, or at least the traditionally published editions of the series, because I really want to see what was changed from the independently published versions. That, my friends, is the Bargainer trilogy by Laura Falasa. I heard that there is extra content in the later books in the series, and to that I say, yes please. Like, I think Laura recently announced that there's extra content in the series. She initially said that you can read the original series and be fine, like you would know the full story. However, apparently she has added a little bit more to the story, but on top of that, professional edits were made because it was submitted to a publishing house. That was another reason why I wanted to consume it initially, but I only found out this week that some parts have been extended. I am a sucker for the series. I would take anything I could possibly get from the series, so I need to consume it. And I know I'm a fake fan, but I actually have not read Desmond Flynn Flynn's novella. Yes, I've read the Bargainer trilogy 2 times, but I still have not yet read Desmond Flynn's story. And I think the reason why I haven't, and I have been shying away from reading his story, is because I haven't heard the most positive things about his novella. For some reason, I've noticed in the reviews that I've read that it has kind of made people not like him as much. I was nervous. However, now that the revisions have been done, I'm kind of willing to go into his novella and see what's up there. I mean, I want more Desmond content. However, I didn't want to ruin my view of Desmond Flynn. I don't know. For some reason, I just noticed that within the reviews, so I didn't really bother touching his story. I guess that makes me a fake fan. Desmond Flynn is my bookish crush, so I don't know. I just wanted to protect him in my mind. That all being said, apparently it has been somewhat extended, so I want to give it a shot. I want to read that as well as reread the Bargainer trilogy. I want to check it out and I want to see how Laura has recrafted the story altogether. There isn't necessarily a deadline for that, but I want to get to it sometime this year. I'm actually waiting for all the audiobooks to come out because as much as I want to compare the original story to the traditionally published story, I kind of also want to compare audiobook performances because I listened to the original Bargainer audiobooks. This new set of audiobooks has been re-narrated by a new narrator. We'll see how we go there. And another book series that I want to reread within the next few months is quite an obvious one if you've been following me for quite some time. That, my friends, is the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. I know, I have already read this series twice. But then again, I've read the Bargainer twice as well. But this is different because I'm going to be rereading this entire series in the lead up to the finale, which was my original intention last year, but the finale got moved to the middle of this year. This is what I'm going to do. I am just going to consume the series in chronological order, get my heart broken by it again, and just enjoy the ride. Cherish is one of my most anticipated releases of the middle of this year. It comes out the beginning of June / the end of May, so that's coming soon. I better get onto this reread. The second last question is, what new release are you anticipating for the second half of this year? Just like my ever-growing TBR, I have an ever-growing anticipated release list. So first of all, I have to mention A Soul of Flesh and Blood and A Fire in the Flesh. A Soul of Flesh and Blood is actually From Blood and Ash told in Castiel's perspective, which is what I've wanted for years. I wanted Castiel's perspective from the very beginning of the series, and we're finally going to get it. I'm excited. And then A Fire in the Flesh is the final book in the Flesh and Fire series, which, as I've mentioned before, I will mention it again, it's the superior series in the Blood and Ash world. Need I say more? Yes, I need to say more. I'm excited to see Daddy Nyktos again, okay? And then the last 2 most anticipated releases of the year actually got moved to the end of the year. This Cursed Light is the sequel and the finale to the Last Fenestra series, the first book being This Vicious Grace. I was expecting this book to come out in August, but just so turns out it got moved out. I don't know where it got moved out to. Was it November or December? But I respect the author's decision here because as much as I love the first book in the series and I want to read the sequel immediately, if this is going to be a duology, it has to go out with a bang. It has to be written well. I don't want this duology to suffer from the duology problem that I've talked about previously. I don't want this conclusion to be rushed. I want it to be perfect. Like the first book. I love the first book so much. If this is not one of my favorite series of all time, I will be absolutely devastated by the time that I finish the book. And then the other most anticipated release that got pushed out was Gold by Raven Kennedy. This is the final book in the Plated Prisoner series, and once again, I fully respect this decision. I don't want a rushed finale. I want a finale that is perfectly written, and as much as I was looking forward to continuing on with the Plated Prisoner series as soon as possible, I was planning to actually continue on with it sometime soon. I am willing to push it out a little bit more for the sake of being closer to the finale. I just want series to end well. That is all I'm asking for. Sometimes series just end in a way where they're just not completely satisfying. I mean, Exhibit A, the Last Hour series, like I loved the Last Hour series and I did stay up all night reading Chain of Thorns, but it wasn't the most satisfactory conclusion. Exhibit B, the Bonds That Tie series, like the final book in the series just didn't really feel conclusive at all, and it just felt like it was stretched out and anticlimactic in some ways. I still enjoyed it. It's just that I reckon that the authors could have taken a little bit more time to flesh out and refine these conclusions, so I respect the author's decisions. In my most anticipated releases case, I respect their decision to push out the finales. And the final question for this tag is, what are you planning to pick up next, and do you think you will rate it 4 stars or above? I've mentioned this previously. I don't like to mention my exact next read only because by the time the video goes up, I will have maybe probably already read it. However, I've decided to choose a read that I literally cannot get to now because it's not out yet as I'm filming this video. However, by the time this video goes up, it might already be out, and that, my friends, is The Blood Gift by N.E. Davenport. So this is the sequel and the conclusion to the Blood Gift duology, and I'm very much nervous about this finale because I have mentioned this just previously. I will mention this again. I don't want this series to end in a rushed way. This series is a duology, and while I love how fleshed out the first book was and how long the first book was, I am still so scared that this last book will be rushed. I don't want this last book to be rushed. I want it to be perfect. So fingers crossed it will be perfect. I predict that this book will be a 4-star read. I think I might have put it on my 5-star predictions TBR. It could be. It has the potential to be. You know why? Because the first book was 5 stars. However, it is the second book in a duology. Second books in a duology sometimes don't go well for me. So we are gonna see. Once again, I will be devastated if this book disappoints me because I want this to be one of my favorite series of all time and I want to recommend it to everyone. I reckon that N.E. Davenport is a talented writer. It's just they need to prove it with their final book in the series. I mean, they're already talented. I know they don't really need to prove themselves forever, but I just want a good ending. That is all I want. So I hope that The Blood Gift is not a rushed conclusion. It's actually an epic conclusion that I so desperately need out of the series. So that is the twice-a-year book tag, the first part of it, and my next part will be in August. So stay tuned for that. If you happen to stay till the end of the video, leave me the orange heart emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. MattGSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. MattGSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
How did I weigh half and I flipped it in a double? How did I weigh half and I flipped it in a double?